right, here we go. We are going to start chapter 2 today. And the big thing that we're going to cover from section 2.1 is conditional statements, just because it's a good reasoning piece in geometry. And so it's an if-then statement. And we call the part that follows the if the hypothesis, and the part that follows the then the conclusion. So for example, if this first one is if you go to Rocky, then you are a Lobo. So the hypothesis here would be you go to Rocky, and then the conclusion is going to be you are a Lobo. So we then use these conditional statements, or these if-then statements, to make new statements. So we call these the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. So the converse is when you switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So you're just taking what comes after then and what comes after if and switching them. And then the inverse is when you negate both, so you make them both a not statement. Okay, and then but you keep the same order from the original. And the contrapositive is kind of the combination of the converse and the inverse. You make them both not and switch them, or switch them. Okay, so it's negating both and switching. So we're going to do one practice of that, but this is all we're really going to do with this. So the first thing is the hypothesis is if you do your math homework, and the conclusion is then you will do well on the test. Okay, so the converse, again, you just switch it. So we're just going to say if you will do well on the test, then you do your math homework. Okay, sorry, that's really kind of illegible. I'm trying to write it quickly for you. So you're just switching the hypothesis and the conclusion. The inverse is if you add a not to both. So if you do not do your math homework, then you do not do well on the test. Okay, so you're doing the not of both. And then the contrapositive is when we do a not and switch the order. So you negate both and switch the order. So the contrapositive is if you do not do well on the test, then you do not do your math homework. Okay, so again, it's just taking hypothesis and conclusions and then rearranging and negating them. And so that's all that we're going to cover from section 2.1 is just conditional statements. Section 2.2, we're just going to use some reasoning. And so inductive reasoning is the process of observing, recognizing patterns, making generalizations, then using what you've observed. And deductive reasoning uses facts, definitions, and accepted properties and the laws of logic to form a logical argument. So inductive is more based on observation, and deductive is using kind of your previous knowledge. That's the difference between the two. So for example, this is inductive reasoning. We're going to add the next term or figure in each sequence. So pause it right now and try it on your own. I would like you to try this on your own. So pause this right now. And I will put the answers up in a minute and talk about them, but right now pause this and then try it on your own. Okay, so this is inductive reasoning, and so you used what you know then to make a guess as to what the next term would be. So the first one is just going down by 2 every time. Second one is doubling, and then the part C is the months: January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So J would be next. B is the number of intersecting lines. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4. E, there was 2 pieces. So the first is the number of sides increases by 1 on the figure, and the number of dots inside increases by 1 as well. And then F is the square numbers, so 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, and so on. And at this point, if you are still listening, I would love it if you sent me an email that said, or told me your feelings about coming back hybrid on Monday. So if you're still listening to this is a little carrot for you. You can get a free extra credit point on your next assignment. If you go ahead and shoot me an email and tell me what your thoughts are about coming back hybrid for an extra credit point. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to do some deductive reasoning. So we're going to make a conjecture based on previous knowledge about the first 20 odd numbers. Okay, so I want you to think about what odd numbers, what happens when you add two odd numbers together, what happens when you add a bunch of odd numbers together, and make a conjecture, which is just an educated guess. Okay, it's just like making a guess based on what you know. So now we can use some inductive reasoning. So I'm going to tell you these are 1 and then 4, and then this one is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and this one is 16. So the first 20 odd numbers, the first thing I said is that they're even, because every time you add an even number of odd numbers together, that's going to be an even number. To get even more specific, the first one is 1 squared, just like that last pattern. Second one is 2 squared, and then 3 squared, and then 4 squared. So the first 20 would be 20 squared, and that's even more specifically 400. Okay, I didn't say how specific to get, and so any sort of conjecture you can make based on your knowledge is good. Okay, the blue word here, counterexample, super important. It is something that proves the statement to not be true. Okay, and so these are all conditional statements, just like we talked about at the beginning here. They're if-then, or not all of them, but this first one it's an if-then statement. Okay, so it's a conditional statement, and we want to come up with an example that proves this to not be true. So if a number is divisible by 5, then it's divisible by 10. Well, a counter example of that would be 25, because 25 is divisible by 5, but it is not divisible by 10. So that proves this statement to be not true. Okay. So the next one is you can connect any 3 points to form a triangle. So again, we want something that proves this not true. So what are 3 points that I can not connect to form a triangle? And the answer here is 3 collinear points. So if you can draw a line through it, you're not going to be able to connect those to form a triangle. Okay? And if you slice a pizza using only straight cuts, then the number of pieces will be twice the number of cuts. Okay, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but here's my example. 2 cuts, 3 pieces of pizza. We could do it this way and do 3 cuts. Oh, nope, that's not going to work. Oh, add another cut right on the edge here. Okay. But most of the time anything like this is going to give you something that is not twice the number of cuts. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. So those are all counter examples. Okay, we're going to write a conditional statement. If you're a Monty Python fan, this is a great reference there. But when we write a conditional statement, the if is going to be the most specific, and the then is going to be out here in the outer fringe of the Venn diagram. So this conditional statement that could be illustrated by this Venn diagram would be if it is a which, then it weighs as much as a duck. Okay, and the reason it's not the other way is because it can be out here in this part of the Venn diagram, and it can weigh as much as a duck, but not be a which. Okay, so the if has to be the most specific part, and the then has to be on the outside. All right, so now we can use that conditional statement and say if someone's a which, then what conclusion can we draw? And the answer here is we can conclude they weigh as much as a duck. And so this is called the law of detachment. If you take a conditional statement and its hypothesis is true, then the conclusion is also true. Okay? So like right here, if something is made of wood, then it floats on water. And you can say my boat is made of wood. So then the conclusion we can draw is the conclusion. We can say, well, then my boat floats on water. Okay. This next one is a little bit tougher because of the way that it's worded. It says, if M is the midpoint of a segment, then it divides the segment into two congruent segments. Okay, so we're not going to take the wording directly from the conclusion on this one. We're saying, oh, M is the midpoint of AB, so you can even draw yourself a little diagram here. And if we know that M is the midpoint and there's two congruent segments, my conclusion is AM and MB are congruent. Okay, and that's because of that if-then statement. It's the midpoint, so it's two congruent segments. Okay, one more little thing we're going to talk about is if we have two conditional statements, then we can use the law of syllogism. And basically what that is it's like you cancel out what is the same. So if the conclusion of the first one, which in this case, if she is a witch, then she weighs as much as a duck. So this is the conclusion. And the hypothesis of the next one is the same. It's almost like those cancel out and you can create a new one using the first hypothesis and the second conclusion. So we can say if she is a witch, then she floats on water. Okay, and again, that's called the law of syllogism. So if you have two conditional statements that are true, you can use the first hypothesis and the second conclusion because the other two, it's like I like to think of it as they cancel out, and I even cross them out to like get my brain wrapped around that from time to time. Okay, so what can we conclude from this first one? If a number is prime, then it doesn't have repeated factors. And then if a number doesn't have repeated factors, then it's not a perfect square. So again, I like for my brain to be like, oh, this is the conclusion, and it's the exact same as the hypothesis here. So I'm going to take this first hypothesis and this second conclusion and make a new statement. So my new if-then statement is if a number is prime, then it is not a perfect square. Okay, so we can do the same thing down here. If a number ends in 0, then it's divisible by 10. And if a number is divisible by 10, then it is divisible by 5. So this part is the same and it cancels out, and we can create our new conclusion, which is if a number ends in 0, then it is divisible by 5. Okay, so you have to be careful. Sometimes you won't be able to do this. It'll be like, what conclusion can you draw? And the answer will be, I can't, because the conclusion and the hypothesis don't match up, or it's not the part that I want to match up, or I don't have the information that I need. So that happens with the law of syllogism and the law of detachment. So you have to make sure all of the statements are true, or you're given the specific parts that you need. Okay, so again, this conclusion here is if a number ends in 0, then it is divisible by 5. Okay? Okay. Thank you for watching the whole video. I know it was kind of a long one today, but we combined a couple sections together. Please, please, please let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, you have two big ideas, one for 2.1 and one for 2.2. Get those done before Monday, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of you on Monday and some of you on Tuesday.